Hello everybody and welcome back. It's Asta the Greek, and today I wanted to talk about the death order for Artless Deceit. Now, before we start, I do want to say that this death order video was the hardest one to make. If you saw my final thoughts on Artless Deceit, you might have an idea as of why, and I will definitely expand on the reason in the tier list video. But sadly, a lot of the characters here had very little presence in the prologue, making it kind of hard for me to predict or theorize what each awardee's role will be. With that being said, let's begin. So obviously we're going to start with the already dead tier. We know that Ryusei, Yuki and Hanako have been dead for the last 6 years, and while it would be crazy if somehow one of them faked their death, I don't find it very likely. I was thinking of putting Kumiko in here as well, but I opted against it. I think it'd be a waste if, after how many chapters, we find out Kumiko was already dead by the time the killing game started. With that out of the way, let's talk about chapter 1. The first victim is always someone that is very relevant at the start, and sadly, that's not many. Excluding Akira, the only other relevant awardees are the Morita twins, Kazuhiko, Hideyoshi, Izanami, and Yumio. Takeshi gets an honorable mention here as the one that used Ko's body to break the front door. He gets an honorable mention because it still wasn't the most memorable moment. I had to check if Hideyoshi or him did that. I feel like a CG of Takeshi blocking the gunfire would make Takeshi's actions more memorable. So, for the first victim, I'm sad to say I believe Katsuhiko will die first. I think Izanami, Yumio, and the twins wouldn't be first victims, so picking from Katsuhiko or Hideyoshi, Katsu is more relevant, while Hide feels more like a DR survivor that carry on his best friend's memory. As for the killer, I'm not the most confident on this pick because I could see him being the side product, but I think Tomoya is going to be the first killer. Aside from the ending making Tomoya look very suspicious, if you've watched my Morita twin video, you'd know that, in my opinion, Tomoya comes off as attention-starved, as if the others don't appreciate or respect him. So it wouldn't be unlikely if Tomoya cracked and ended up killing in an attempt to get out. Maybe Akira tells him something that's too much for him to forget, or forgive. Maybe the whole machine gun scene got to him and couldn't handle the pressure. Moving on with the next chapter, sadly, most of these are based on how I do these theories when we don't have much on the cast, which is me going over each character and listing what role they could play, and then go off of vibes. For chapter 2, I've chosen Takeshi as the victim and Itsumi as the killer. When looking at Itsumi, I thought of her as the killer you wouldn't suspect. Subverting the expectations is the term, I believe. Choosing a second victim was difficult, but I ended up with Takeshi. Now, why would Itsumi kill him of all people? My only guess is that perhaps, since Itsumi is a game dev, she could have created an elaborate trap to kill someone else, but Takeshi accidentally triggered it, causing his death. I realize now that I forgot to mention this, but with Tomoya dead, I believe that Chiemi would make a good side protagonist for Akira, with Izanami as the antagonist. On to chapter 3 now. Rei makes the most sense to me for a chapter 3 victim. With how vulnerable she is, it would take an actual miracle for Rei to survive longer than that, let alone survive the whole thing. She's more of a comic relief character, but as the story continues, there are less and less reasons to keep her around, in my opinion. Atome is the second victim of chapter 3. As we don't have confirmation on if they are following the standard DR tropes or not, I'm going to assume that chapter 3 here will follow the infamous chapter 3 double kill approach. Atome doesn't feel like a character that has too much room for character development. She falls in line more with the sleep-deprived artist trope, and her colorful personality makes her stand out from the rest. So chapter 3 would be a good moment to end her story. As for the killer, I believe Satoru would make for a good candidate. We have seen some sprites of his that make him look very ominous, and he is a huge fan of Akira, so the writers could try and tackle themes of parasocial relationships by having Satoru being a bit more than just a fan, and going crazy and killing those two in the process. Whether it was because they did something to Akira, or even something minor that he found disrespectful towards her. Chapter 4 was also a little rough for me. I've chosen Kiyoshi here as the killer and Kyoran as the victim. I think Kyoran is a character that will stick around for a while. He could prove to be a great ally to both Akira and Izanami, while also causing confusion as to which of his claims or actions are truthful or not. Still, not survivor material in my opinion. As for Kiyoshi, it's really hard to tell. He hasn't had much screen time, and most of it is his puppet speaking, so I can't really tell what the actual character is like. I just think that an execution for the Ultimate Puppeteer would be sick. For Chapter 5, I think the side protagonist would be killed here. I don't think we've seen that before. Usually it's the antagonist that gets killed first. If the side protagonist dies, it's usually the killer, at least in the canon DR games. So GME being the last victim makes a lot of sense to me. As for the killer, looking at the characters remaining, I wanna say that Shaw would be the last killer. Sadly, I don't have any reason as to why she'd kill. This is mainly a vibes thing. I don't see Shaw being with the survivors. Chapter 6 is where the plot comes to an end. I believe the mastermind is the Forgotten Ultimate and cousin of Izanami, making her the traitor. My theory is that the two of them work together to ruin EOS's reputation as well as the Ultimates. After all, both Izanami and her cousin were victims of abuse by their own family, all to pursue this ultimate status and wealth. It wouldn't be surprising if they harbored resentment towards the EOS, Kumiko, and their own family, of course. I can see an ending where both Izanami and her cousin die at the end of Chapter 6, maybe to avoid capture. While I was thinking of having Kumiko be dead before all this, I think if the plan was revenge, keeping her alive to witness the downfall of her life's work would be a worse punishment. This of course would mean that the survivors are Akira, Shion, Yumio, and Hideyoshi. But is that all? Of course not! There is still the whole side plot with Denshi to talk about. While I'm not sure how the side story will progress, I do have this theory that Kaoru will try and put the blame of the kidnappings on the Yakuza, framing them in hopes of finally arresting them all. With this theory, I do think that at least one Yakuza member will die, with my bets being on Hirotaka. He is the eldest and also seems to be the fighter of the group, so him dying during an altercation with the police would make sense. Maybe Kaoru is the one to kill him too. I'd put Hirotaka's death around Chapter 4, with Kaoru either being demoted or straight up arrested, since she could have derailed the whole investigation and put the lives of the Ultimates at risk just to get the Himura clan, which in this case were innocent. But that will be all for today. What do you guys think? Do you agree with these theories? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but until the next video, do take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.